TOA, Fit Body Forever, and Fit Body Bootcamp communities. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Robert Linkul with TrainingTheOlderAdult.com. Starting today off with a very special happy birthday to my dad. Today is August 18th. He was born in 1944 and passed in 2023. So we are it's our second celebration of his birthday. He passed in May of 2023. So we had his birthday last year. This year, in honor of that, we will be doing a shit to stand workout on our Monday and Tuesday workouts coming up this week. I invite you to join me with that. I will post that here shortly for you all to see. All right, gang, thinking of you, Pop. All right, because of the history I have of my dad and how the sit to stand in his best Sean Connery voice is why we call it the shit to stand test, the shit to stand finisher and workout. Because our successes with dad and his ability to get down and get up from a chair, from a couch, from the toilet, from a deep little car, low riding cars, from deep seated lazy boys or recliners, like all of that was such a problem, at one point. This article in particular gives some training strategies that incorporates the sit to stand, but also kind of tests it as a primary component of assessment. This is a relatively new April 30th, 2024, so just a couple months ago, research article that was done. We're going to zoom in here a little bit. I apologize for the blurriness, but I want you to be able to see what's going on. Muscle strength declines 3% per year after the age of 70. Resistance training guidelines for older adults are often based on free weights and machine exercises, which may be inaccessible and lack carryover to activities of daily living. We tested the hypothesis that resistance training adaptations in older adults are task specific. They had 30 adults, 8 males, 22 females, with their average age 71, were randomly assigned to participate in 6 weeks of supervised high-intensity resistance training twice a week, one group utilizing free weights and machines, traditional, versus functional activities that were overloaded using a weighted vest for function, okay? So they have the traditional group versus the functional group. Participants were thoroughly familiarized with their exercises and the testing prior to the beginning of the study. Major outcomes measured included assessments of functional performance. They had a 5 repetition maximum strength test using a hex bar. They used a isometric knee extensor for force and a quadricep muscle size measurement. Physical activity and nutrition were also monitored. The study demonstrated the magnitude of improvement with a given outcome of largely dependent on the group assignment, which greater improvements in gait speed and timed up and go in the functional group were also seen, but 2 to 3 times greater in the 5 rep maximum strength improvements for those that did the lifting with the trap bar, the leg press, the leg extension following the traditional resistance training. Both groups showed improvements in isometric knee extensor force. They both improved in muscle size, and then suggesting that some aspects were observed in the adaptations were rather generic, but overall, the novelty finding was that older adults can utilize resistance training adaptations for a high degree of task-specific improvements, meaning if they're using lifting protocols, they will not only see increases in muscle mass, timed up and go, balance, coordination, reaction time. I mean, the list of, I'll show you in a second, of what they assessed on there, great benefits. But let's say you don't have access to all that. What you do have access to is a weighted vest that you can train with at home. Well, that showed great improvements as well. And they can improve pretty similarly across the board, with exception of the 5 rep max was the one that really stood out to people that, they were 2 to 3 times greater than the ones using the vest. So pretty cool little image they put up here, kind of showing the traditional training. They did the deadlift, they did a 45-degree angle leg press, the leg extension, and then the leg curl. Notice the specific image of the leg curl. There have been many studies in the past that wanted to incorporate the leg curl for older populations, but they had to scratch it from the program because majority of their clients were not comfortable in a forward down prone position, getting up and down from that position and or the pressure on their abdomen. So they would start to assess individuals getting into those positions and found they were so uncomfortable and unwilling to continue to do that, they had to just scratch it out of the assessment. There was a study that came out December 2023. The results of that made it into national news. It was on the Washington Post. It was in the New Yorker. It was all over the place the New York Times, that talked about training older adults and older adults, those over 85. And they did leg press, quad extension, pull downs, chest press, and overhead press, and horizontal rows. And as we looked at that, I was like, why would they do leg press and quad extension and not do hamstring curls? And that was the given reason. They just could not get people into this prone position. So if we're going to do this based on machines, it needs to be one of the newer leg curl machines where you get to stay seated and basically just move the little pad to the other side of your leg, and you can pull down. And there's a like a knee anchor that goes over the top. Most of the selectorized machines out there now, the series, they have this. They have the seated version of it, as opposed to the prone, laying forward, head down, butt up in the air, hamstring curl machine. So going to keep that in mind as you interpret this info and how far we want to take it. With the functional training, they did a lot of sit to stands, which I'm a huge fan of. Okay, we have a client that suggests every time we do sit to stands that her knees hurt, and she doesn't want to do maybe more than 20 a day. And so we kind of look at what the average person does a day. They get up out of bed, okay, they go to the bathroom, they go eat breakfast, they sit and watch television, they get in their car, they sit down to put their shoes on, then they get in the car, then they get to the gym and they put their band on, and then they do some band laterals and whatnot, and then they sit back down so we're already at 8, 9, 10 sit to stands just in the first hour and a half of your day. You're gonna do upwards of 50 sit to stands a day, just depending on how active you are, how often you sit down and you stand up. So to suggest that we only do 20 does not carry over to daily life activity and or the demands of daily life. What does are all the other, out of the 168 hours that you have in a week, and I get to see you for 1 or 2 of those, out of all those other hours, what are you doing that could be damaging your knees or tearing up your knees? And those are the things that may be having more of a negative return, as opposed to doing sit to stands in the gym, because you're doing more sit to stands at home in your daily life than you are, when we're in here. Now, as we build that ability, hopefully we get to the point where all you Fit Body Forevers out there, we've been building up to the 150 sit to stand test, which is no joke. It's very difficult. You do 150 sit to stands with body weight, or you do 75 sit to stands with a kettlebell in hand and or a really heavy vest, okay? One of the two. I think the sit to stand, if you want to practice something like this on a daily basis, and this was the homework I think that helped my dad the most, was every time you go to get up, do 3 to 5 sit to stands. Get up, get down, get up, get down, get up, get down, go to the kitchen, grab whatever you're coming, come back, get up, get down, get up, get down, get up, get down, stay there, watch your show. Do that every time you go to the bathroom, you go to the kitchen, you go to answer the door, whatever it is. Hold on, I'll be right there. Sit down, right? Yeah, I mean, that would be a super effective way by the end of the day to go, all right, I did 20 sit to stands today times 360 sit to stands throughout my day. Now we're talking about life actionable skills. Even though it's just your body weight, you're still practicing the skill set. Neurologically, you're using that movement pattern, developing that movement pattern, maintaining that movement pattern, as simple as it is, because it is one that you lose as we get older. We've seen this. People into their 50s, into their 60s, into their 70s, every decade of life, they can sit less deep. They get up slower. They can't do as many reps. They're not as strong, right? And so chairs start to get higher and higher. Time to allow them to get up and down becomes greater. And assisted tools, handles on the side, walkers, whatever else, become a key component to it because the demand of their abilities. You would think that somebody in their 70s should still be able to get up and down off the toilet, off a chair, under their own power. Same with somebody in their 80s. In my opinion, same with somebody in their 90s. If I could have it my way, everybody would resistance train 2 to 3 times a week. And if everyone did that, everybody, no matter who they are, everybody did that 2 to 3 times a week, 20 to 30 minutes, pure good resistance training, I think we would reduce the number of people that enter the disability threshold by 80%. The disability threshold is let me show you here, is an area in the aging process where muscle strength and function, vertical axis, versus age, okay, going this way, age, okay, our horizontal axis. As we continue to age, we're eventually going to get to a point, well, some people will eventually get to a point where they are dependent on someone else to take care of them or an assisted device to assist them in daily function. And that, at that point, you have now entered the disability threshold. For those that are extremely sedentary, do not train, do not resistance train, don't eat well, are not active, they just sit all the time. This increases inflammation, it decreases your body composition in terms of muscle mass, it increases your insulin resistance. So you get closer to and or into the disability threshold earlier in life. Let's call it your 60s, because you've been so deconditioned, okay, and undertrained. Those that live life, but they're out and they're active and they kind of do their daily thing, but they don't resistance train, they don't exercise, but they are somewhat active. They're the black line, okay, and they just kind of normal decline, and let's say at 70, you hit the disability threshold. Well, those that do a little bit of cardiovascular exercise, that reduces your inflammation, which inflammation has a huge impact back on the body in terms of arthritis, osteoporosis, sarcopenia, loss of muscle mass and function, etc., along with many other damaging components to basically every disease in your body for the most part. So reducing inflammation is great. Increasing body composition in terms of muscle mass, and then increasing or decreasing your insulin resistance is going to improve. If you train just a little bit of cardiovascular work, etc. You're going to extend that out to 77, maybe 80 years old. And then if you train a lot, mixed exercise, resistance training, good eating, good proper habits, rucking, right, everything we talk about, well, you're going to drastically decrease your inflammation, drastically increase your body composition, big muscle mass, and then drastically reduce your insulin resistant risk here as we go through. And ultimately, let's hope the gray line, like you never hit the disability threshold. Ideally, and this is where I was going with in the beginning, is ideally 80% of us would just get to 98 years old or whatever we're going to be and just die. Like just, and I mean that any kind of a morbid way. Like you're just living, you're capable, you're able, you're independent, you're doing, you're living, and you just, whatever it is, a heart attack or you're sleeping and you just pass away. That would be ideal, as opposed to 67, 70 years old, now I'm using a cane and a walker, I can hardly do anything in life, and then eventually I become, bedridden, and then I live for 8 more years where all I can do is lay in bed and or sit up. And you're alive, but are you living? That kind of becomes the question now. I don't really know if you're going to be in the best health or the best state of mind in that situation. So do you want to continue that? Or do we want to put work in ahead of time to help us push further away from that disability threshold? This is a big key component to our life, is maintaining independence, because as soon as you enter that disability threshold, quality of life, longevity, and your risk of mortality, though it's always there, it just drastically goes up, okay? Fall risk is high, everything goes up. So kind of keep that in mind here, right? When they talk about resistance training, dumbbells, kettlebells, bands, everything else you see up top. I love this image because it really explains all of this and how efficient we want to be with our 20 to 30 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week, can do a ton of good things for you as we age. So if we're going to implement in sit to stands as the base, most other than general locomotion, just walking around, I think the sit to stand is probably the most vital, most valuable function that you do. Next to that would be the locomotion, the walking. So that's what the tug is, timed up and go. You stand up, you walk out 3 meters, about 10 feet, walk around a cone, come back and sit down. And we time that. If it's under 13.5 seconds, which is pretty long, okay? That's a long period of time to walk 20 feet, basically. 10 out, 10 back. If it's under 13.5 seconds, you're good. You're not a fall risk. What is ideal? About 8 seconds. It should be about 8 seconds or less, okay? That's really what we're targeting. That's a personal preference, but all the research suggests 13.5. Then heel raises, plantar flexion, basically. You're pushing down on your toes. Your heels come up off the floor. This is your one of few, I think there's only two second class levers in your body. The calves are basically the lifting force, like the handles on a wheelbarrow. The weight kind of sits in the middle, and then the fulcrum or the pivot point here are your feet on the ground. So that kind of like a wheelbarrow being lifted up. That's how you are able to do a calf pump. Very functional in our ground reactive force and strength development through the ground to keep us upright. So the better plantar flexion, big toe strength, all toe strength, but specifically the hallucis joint of the big toe, and the better your gastrocnemius is, your calves, your soleus, and your anterior tibialis, all assist in plantar flexion and this counterweighting at the ankle to be able to keep you really grounded in multiple directions, but mostly forward and backwards, as that's where most of our life kind of exists. However, falls occur back and to the right or back and to the left. They fall slightly backwards and off to the sides. About 70% of falls move in those directions. So if you're not able to throw a foot back and get your toe dug into the ground and stop yourself, then your increased risk for falls, again, continues to grow. So that's why the heel raise was such an important one. And then gait speed, fast walking, okay? Think about this, and these aren't full range of motion reps, but just something to think about. With every step that you take, you're wearing a 15-pound vest. With every step that I take, that's an extra 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90, right? 105, etc. That's an extra thousands, if not more, of pounds that you are moving when you go for a 2-mile walk, a 3-mile walk. Now, granted, that's not a big full range of motion like a bench press or a deep squat or something like that, but it's extra load moved, which for the aging body that has weaker bones, that's a win. For the aging body that's declining in muscle mass, that's a win, specifically for your lower body, but everything is pretty much on with the exception of your arms. And this is where using walking sticks actually is a huge benefit. It's quite a bit more work. This is one of those misconceptions, I've talked about this before, that walking with walking sticks is seen as a negative or a crutch, okay? That if you're using walking sticks, that means you're a big fall risk, and people will look at that and go, oh, that poor man, he has to use sticks when he walks or else he'll fall down. This is not the case. I mean, yes, it will make you more balanced having sticks there to help you, but it's more work, okay? If you have ever gone for a hike and you're using those sticks to help propel yourself up a mountain, it's a lot more work. And luckily for me, in college, I had the opportunity to do a Bruce protocol test and a VO2 test on a treadmill, one with a backpack on with no arm use, and then one with arm use, where I got to, and it was a big treadmill, it was like 6 foot wide, it was awesome. And you can use your arms and push with your arms as you went. Now, I had a higher recorded effort and VO2 max earlier in my work session than I did with using my arms than I did without. Meaning I was using more musculature, my body was having to work harder earlier, which when we go out and exercise, we want that, okay? We want you to get more work. So if I'm wearing 15 pounds, I'm stressing this extra 15 pounds all through my legs, through my trunk, through my shoulders, everything except for my arms. And then I either extremity load, meaning you put 1 or 2 pounds of wrist weights around your wrists, and or use walking sticks as you are trucking along. You now have stress put through your entire body with the exception of your face, okay, which doesn't need a lot of muscular endurance training. You have all this engagement now with an extra 15, 30, 45, 60 pounds of thousands of pounds of extra load. So that's where this home program, wearing the vest, sit to stands, transitional gait speeds, okay, with your timed up and go, your calf pumps, heel raises. You could probably throw in some reverse drop step lunges, maybe some wall sits, okay, some incline push-ups, right? Or excuse me, decline push-ups where your hands are like on a countertop or the couch. Train your upper body a little bit. Would love to have something like a TRX or suspension strap like that right there, okay, where you can lean back and do some rows, because the posterior chain of your body would be, in my opinion, the greatest priority, with exception of the hinge, our sit to stand, our squats, etc., for us to train, as the muscles on the back of the body really do a good job to hold you upright, keep your head in posture, keep your body in posture to keep you moving, and go out on regular rucks. So if we have that set up, if you're just like, I can't afford a gym membership, okay, buy a TRX, click that into your door, or put in an eye hook like I have there, have a suspension strap that you can do a lot of body weight work with, and get yourself a vest. Okay, go over to Hyperwear. Let me show you a couple of things here. Here's my dad wearing his Hyperwear vest, okay? This is designed for females. This is a woman's vest, but at this time, Dad was not super strong. I needed a 10-pound vest. All my other ones were 15 pounds or more. So we started wearing this guy, and he's doing his grippers too while we do this, which is multitasking, which is awesome, okay, dual tasking, etc. And you go to a standing position and then back to the seated position and up to the standing position. It's pretty simple. You just keep doing these guys back to back as you go. Extra 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds, and we just keep knocking off hundreds of pounds with every rep. Okay, so the vest, if Dad wasn't wearing, a polo shirt, just had a regular t-shirt on or something, you wouldn't even recognize it. It just kind of blends right in. So Hyperwear, by the way, if you want to get one, we have a discount code. I don't make money on this. This is just something we get as being a affiliate and good friends with them. Hyperwear is TOA15. You get $15 off your purchase. So this is a $85 vest after that discount. I think it's a $100 vest. You get it for $85, okay? And that goes for any other vest. They've got other ones. They make, in my opinion, the best vests on the market by far. Super high quality. They dry out quick. So if you ever need to share it with somebody, another family member, whatnot, they're really, really great, okay? All right, so vest engagements here while we do our trainings, okay, is going to give you an opportunity at home to have a loaded vest to go on rucks or walks, do in-home training like you just saw Dad do in sit to stands. You can do your calf pumps, everything else we talked about, right? All of this in encouraging us to get away from the disability threshold. Keep us on that gray line as much as possible. Continuing with this study, participants had all their assessments done. Basic screens for sarcopenia did include a grip strength test, their sit to stand, they did their max force test, they tested their gait speed, went through that. They measured their thighs on how much muscle mass they had there. They did time their timed up and go. A sit to stand test incorporated, did they do the 5 rep? I think they did the 5 rep test. Yeah, 5 repetitions. You're standing and they go, and you sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up 5 times, and they time it, okay? And you're, 20 seconds or 15 seconds or whatever it is, however long it takes you, they time that. The heel raise test, you're touching, typically you stand on a 2x4 or something that drops 2 inches, touch your heels and then all the way up, and they can measure your range of motion. Start on the floor, then they can elevate you from there. Your 5 rep max in strength. This was with the hex bar. They did the leg press, the leg curl. Was that it? Trap bar, deadlift, leg press, leg extension, leg curl. So they did all four of their leg strength exercises. They tested a 5 rep max on all of those. For deconditioned, untrained bodies, man, that's risky. That's risky doing a max effort with detrained, deconditioned individuals. Like, man, I wonder if there were 50 participants and they ended up with 30 that made it through the testing. You know what I mean? That's where my mind always goes, because you take people that have never trained, bring them in here and like, let's find the heaviest weight you can pick up 5 times. They're going to blow apart. So I think you would be rather conservative with this and just be like, okay, that was pretty good. That was like 5, you're good. How was that, a 10 out of 10? And they're like, I could probably do a little more. And you're like, are you sure? You know what I mean? Like, it only helps the test, in my opinion, to kind of underscore that one. I'm not saying we need to sway them, but you got to be careful with people. They're untrained. So they do a couple warm-up sets and then they just start stacking on weight and see how they do. Very, very nerve-wracking, in my opinion. But they were taking long rests, 3 to 5 minutes, okay, working their way through that. They got their test. Traditional machines and free weight resistance training routines were then put together, okay? So they had them doing, let's see, total loads were adjusted on set-by-set basis as 85% of an estimated 1 rep max corresponded roughly to a 6 rep maximum load. And the goal for each set was for the participants to perform between 3 to 9 repetitions of each exercise. 3 to 9 repetitions. That's odd. For example, if a participant could only perform 2 repetitions of a given set, weight was removed prior to the next set. Conversely, performing 10 repetitions for a given set would result in more weight being added the next set. This set-by-set approach has proven successful in inducing rapid gains in strength in previous short-term studies. That's pretty cool. So 3 to 9 reps. If they can only do 2, more weight is removed. If they can do more than 10, weight is added. So there are hypertrophy-based results anywhere from 6 to 30 repetitions, pending the load is of a 9 or 10 out of a 1 to 10 scale. It's got to be super challenging. Meaning if you're doing 30, like a 9 out of 10 effort for 30 reps means like 30, maybe you could do 31, 32, maybe. Like it's that close to being, you're almost done at 30, you cannot do another one versus 6, right? And then you're like, 7, that's all I got. Like you can maybe do 1 or 2 more reps. It has to be a very hard and very high perceived effort for you to work on those ranges, 6 all the way up to 30, somewhere in there. Because the old adage, the old idea was anything over 12 reps, you were now just pure cardiovascular work. It did nothing for hypertrophy, and that's not true. As long as the load matches the effort, if you're like, I'm doing sets of 20, cool. When you hit 20, how many more could you do? How many reps do you have in reserve? The answer should be 1 to 2. If you have more than 1 or 2, it's not heavy enough to really stimulate enough muscle growth we're going to see as hypertrophy-based results, okay? So in this study, they're going, we're not going to do this high-end stuff. We're doing 3 to 9. That's it. It's single-digit lifting, okay? Which again, with older populations, this is risky, but it's a short-term study. They needed results quick. So if you get someone that comes in, they're diagnosed with sarcopenia, they're underboned, they're undermuscled, right? Underbone density to undermuscled, and they're deconditioned. They're like, yo, we got to get this guy or this gal strong quick. What's your protocol? What do you have for me that's going to help? Well, in terms of lower body work, we've got these 4 lifts. We've got this testing protocol 2 to 3 days a week. Let's hit it. Well, 2 days a week for them. 2 days a week, let's hit it. And so they would just crank out, 6, 7, 8, 9 reps. Oh, 10, let's go a little heavier, back to 7 or 8. And they just keep pushing them, which, leg press, leg curl. I personally like to work higher repetitions with lighter loads. I like working 12, 15s, 18s, even up to 20s sometimes, because I like that lighter load, eccentric controlled burning sensation versus you're only going to get 3 reps in here. So it's got to be so damn heavy by the time you hit number 3. It's causing you to go, man, I don't know if I could do another one, right? Like that's enough stimulus, but there's so much load. You risk the potential for injury, and especially with deconditioned or undertrained people. But there's a different sensation, a different feeling. When you do 3 reps with a weight that heavy, it just, in my opinion, it just feels heavy. Your body just feels stressed, right? And that produces great results. People get really strong from that. So it works. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying it's a different feel than when you do sets of 20, 15 to 20, and you 25 sometimes. You get up there and you're like, oh, it's burning so much, right? You got this massive acidic burn, even though there's no acidity in that at that moment. That comes later. There's just this massive pump and this burn. And you're like, oh man, it's a different feel. But this comes down to different body types, different blood types, different sensations for each body is going to interpret and feel these things differently, okay? I'm getting off on tangents here, but you kind of see where I'm going with this. Like, it can be simple. It can be 4 exercises, right? It can be simple. And it could be sets of, I bet you, if they did this exact same study, but they did the same protocol for 10 to 15, I bet you they'd have the exact same results. That would be my bet. Okay, that anywhere under the set of 30, as long as the load was challenging. If they said, okay, if you get to 10, and you can do a little bit more, great, keep going. But if you get to 15, 16, okay, we're going to add a little weight. I don't want you to go over 15, and I want you to be able to always do at least 10, right? If they did that, if they just bumped this whole thing up 5 to 7 reps somewhere in there and just said, here's our new range, I bet you they get the same results. If they redid it again with 15 to 20, I bet you they get the same results, okay? I think that's the stimulus. It's about the load appropriate challenge for the rep demand up to 30 reps. Over 30, that's where the evidence starts to show, okay, you're losing the hypertrophy-based effect, and now we're really encouraging the muscular endurance effect. Doesn't mean that you can't get strong doing more than that, but how much are you going to grow? Muscle size, that's debatable, okay? Here's some further tests, and all you study, research-minded folks out there can interpret all this a lot better than me, but there's your pre-test and your post-test, and you see all the scores and the parameters and the guidelines they went through to do all the assessments. It shows all their results afterwards and how they calculated everything, and that all comes down into this big grid here that you see. It shows, again, a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not great at this. This is why I didn't go the direction of research. I am just a big fan of reading the research and then saying, okay, how can we apply this? The first takeaway that I get from this, and again, with the hex bar, here's an example of your hex bar deadlift. My awesome client, Susan, okay, performing our hex bar variation of our deadlift. One of my favorite lifts, great back position, full body stressor all the way through. I don't know if you can find a better lift to perform than the hex bar deadlift in terms of pulling weight off the ground. You're center massed, so that means it's all the way around you. The ideal hex bar, in my opinion, would have bumper plates on each side and then one in front and back, okay? So to truly even her out, right now she's heavily loaded side to side, but if there was another bar that came off of this end and there was a bumper plate back here, and then another one that came off this end and there was another one there, she would truly be center massed then, right? She's right in the middle. It wouldn't matter which side of the bar she grabs, what direction she's facing, doesn't matter. She could just pick up and return and just stressed heavy load in every direction. Where if you're standing this way, the load is center massed around you, but it's heavy side to side. Now, if she turned towards us and grabbed the bar itself, which is difficult to balance, okay, and you pick up, now you're forward and back. And so we would do sets like that as well. We would do sets, kind of along a horizontal loading axis and then a vertical loading axis if you're going with me here, right? You kind of get the stressor and the idea. Obviously, being bilateral, biped, individuals that we are, like our ability to load side to side, front to back, depends on our stance and our overall strength. But we do pretty good with that bilateral, side-loaded, deadlifting, pulling position. Plus, the handles are a little higher, so it's a little bit easier for us to pull from that height. And again, no one ever said, okay, the optimal lifting height, whatever a 45-pound plate is, I think it's about 8.5 inches. From the center, the radius, down to the floor, about 8.5 inches, I think. No one ever said that is the ideal pulling weight for every human being on earth. No one ever said that. And if they did, they're wrong. What's ideal? I don't know. Okay, I mean, I think the depth that you need to get to is as deep as whatever you're picking up, right? So who's to say like, oh, it's cheating if you use this? It's not cheating. It's just a different height of pull, okay? There's so many people that are very judgmental of the bar's got to be, and if you're not doing barbell lifts, the hex bar's cheating, and if you're wide stance, the sumo's cheating, and this, oh, come on. In the world of competition, right, like it doesn't matter. This is life. We're just lifting. Let's just get strong. Let's use the best tool for the protocols that we have and the people that we're working with. So in this case, hex bar, fantastic option. You don't have a hex bar, kettlebells between your feet, and they make up to 200 and something pound kettlebells, right? You can have an awesome kettlebell collection in house and get some great deadlifting options in there. 2 kettlebells, right? Anyway, a lot of good options, lots of good ways to be able to train your body. All right, final discussion. Okay, they talk a bit about in the beginning. We use these protocols with ACSM, with the NSCA, both have mission statements that cover this. We went through all of our screening. The key here, our key findings were largely consistent with our hypothesis. Older adults that performed traditional resistance training showed significant improvements in their 5-rep max strength that had only limited carryover to the functional assessment commonly used to screen for and diagnose sarcopenia such as gait speed and then the chair sit to stand. In contrast, participants that performed the functional resistance training exercises with the weighted vest showed notable task-specific improvements in functional measures, but the adaptation had small carryover to the 5-rep max strength. So both styles of training worked. It got them better across the board. The ones that did the lifting, the traditional resistance training, they saw greater improvements in pure strength outputs, which would be a given. The ones that wore the vest saw greater improvements in their gait speed, and their timed up and go, that kind of thing, which is, again, you're practicing that skill set a little bit more. That's a given. What do we take away from this whole thing is, in my opinion, this image right here is not two different lifts or two different training routines. It's one. This should be a scheme that is used for individuals weekly. So you could have a day of lower body lifting that is your traditional resistance training on Monday. On Tuesday, you go for a ruck or with your vest on. Then you come back on Wednesday, we do a traditional strength training, but you do upper body. So we do some bench press, we do some horizontal rows, seated rows, you do an overhead press, you do some pull downs, okay, some curls and some extensions, right? You don't even need to do those. Just those 4 lifts: horizontal push and pull, vertical push and pull. And you do the same protocol, 3 to 9 reps, add load, take load, right, as needed, do the exact same thing. Come back on Thursday, put your vest on, go for a ruck, okay, another 2, 3, 4, 5 miles, whatever you can build up to, whatever you need to start with, okay? I'm not telling you got to go do 5 miles on day one, just go for a 20-minute walk. If it ends 10 minutes out, 10 minutes back. If that ends up at a mile, awesome. If it doesn't, keep practicing, okay? You'll get better at this for sure. It is challenging. Start very, very light and gradually increase your load. Like, get that vest I was showing you, the hyperwear vest, and put 4 pounds, put 8 of the little guys. They're half pounds each little container. So easy. You just open the vest and pluck them out. They just sit in these little baggies, okay? Little pockets. Take them out, just put 8 in there. 4 in the front, 4 in the back. You've got 4 pounds now that you get to go for your walk. 2 weeks, add 2 more. Now you've got 5 pounds. 2 weeks, 6 pounds. 2 weeks, 7 pounds. 8 pounds. 9 pounds, 10 pounds. After about 2.5, 3 months, your vest is fully loaded and you've gradually increased your stress. This is great. Now the vest is fully loaded. Now you're good to go, okay? So we lower body, traditional strength train, Monday, ruck. Then we upper body strength train on Wednesday, Thursday, ruck. And then on Friday, we could do a combo of our strength training and or a combination with the vest. And then have a fun weekend doing whatever we want. You know, being active, going out golfing, pickleball, gardening, etc. Okay? Now, a combo on Friday could look something like this. Put the vest on and do your hex bar deadlifts, do your bench press, do your leg press, and do your seated rows. So pick your 2 big muscle group movers, the hex bar deadlift, the leg press, and then your horizontal push and your horizontal pull. And do your same protocol. Do that on Friday. Now you've got a full body lift with extra load. Every time you pick up the hex bar now and it had, 70 pounds on it, you're actually moving 80 because you have your vest on. Make sense? But with every single rep, a little more, a little more, a little more. I know you're thinking, like, how would I lay down on the bench with the vest? These vests are super pliable, okay? And all the weights, especially for the ladies out there, the weights are under your sternum. So there's no plates, no pressures on your chest. It's all under your sternum. It wraps around your trunk, your belly, basically. And they're very pliable. It's super easy. Now, some of the vests are, the little weights in there are a little bulkier. Some of them are these really hyperwear, did this great design of like a 1/4 pound little tiny strips of metal, if you will, that slide in there and make the vest really pliable. So it's almost like a bulletproof vest kind of a thing. It doesn't have plates in it. It's more like a Kevlar that's really pliable and heavy, and it's awesome, okay? Great to put on and like just do your regular workout. Do your thing. I think that could be a great protocol for you to practice and get really efficient at your deadlifting and your sit to standing, right? All in action here. Applicable, real life, good stuff. All right, gang. I hope you enjoyed this. I know it was a bit of a long one. I wanted to really dive into this. I know I went on a couple tangents, but I hope it carried over for you to see, number one, this doesn't have to be fancy. Number two, it can be done in a short period of time. Number three, specific measures that if we need this result pretty quickly, if we implement these specific measures, you can get some great results, and it's very actionable. It's going to help us not fall down, all this. And how simple is it, right? 4 lifts in the gym or 4 at home wearing an $80 vest. You make that $80 investment once, you've got your home gym for the rest of your life. Now, would we need more load? Eventually, yes, right? You're going to get stronger. You're going to outgrow your vest. And that's when you're going to want to start to have some options that have external loads and all. But this is a fantastic training point. I would say for the first 6 to 12 months of your life of resistance training now is utilizing that vest. You'll see very good benefits. And maybe the vest just becomes a rucking tool for you as you get a heavier vest or start to invest in weights that you can use at home in the future. But this is a great starting point. And I would just say too, from a cognitive emotional side, this is a less intense and or intimidating variation of resistance training too, is simply putting on a vest and doing body weight work that everybody feels like is a good starting point. Where I think most professionals know body weight work is quite difficult. Just training with your body weight is very hard. Okay, doing pull-ups and push-ups and body weight squats, pause squats, wall sits, planks, right? All these things, bear crawling. These are all very difficult exercises if done correctly and implemented appropriately. They're really hard. They're not easy. The machines exercises with 5, 10, 15 pounds on there, that's introduction to resistance training in my opinion. Guided movements lighter than body weight so I can build up the strength to eventually manipulate my 250 pounds of body weight. That's hard. But 10 pounds on the chest press, I can do that. I can start there and build up, build up, build up, build up. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Comments or questions, hit me up down below. I have so much more I want to keep talking, but we're going to start knocking on 60 minutes here. I don't want to go too deep into it, but I got so much more I want to talk about this. I really liked this study. I love the simplicity of it, but it showed such good results. Everything that we're targeting, everything that we're trying to improve with our people, they did it in this short study, 16 weeks, right? I think they went through, or 6 weeks, 6 weeks. That's it. With their 30 people, they saw all these significant improvements. I mean, that's fantastic to take somebody and go, in the next month and a half, here's what we can do for you. And basically, as they talked about their pure strength off the floor with the hex bar, double to triple their strength in that. I just think that's fantastic. So I hope you got some good stuff from this. Please subscribe, follow, share this out with anybody if they want to become part of the community. We put out videos every week. We would love to have you join us with that and have anybody else that you'd like to bring along for the ride. Please send this to them. We'd much appreciate it. Much love and appreciation to all of you. And again, Pop, I love you. I hope you're doing great up there, my man. We miss you so much. Thank you to everybody out there that supports us and that's part of our communities, from TOA to Fit Body Bootcamp, Fit Body Forever, and everybody in between. Thank you all for being here and being a part of this with us. We love you. We appreciate you. Have a great day. And until next time, continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia. Take care. Do you know how heavy that is?
No.
110 pounds.
Ooh.
How about that, huh?
Good for you, but cool, yeah.
110 pounds. Good job.